May the words of my lips, the meditation of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord our God and Redeemer. Amen. Well, we've got two gospel readings today, a very unique day. One which sees his triumphant entry into Jerusalem a week before he would see his death. One where everybody surrounded him and acknowledged him as king. The next where everybody stood around him, berating him, beating, spitting, and looking for his death. I wonder who that entry was for. Was it for Jesus? Was it for him so that he would have the courage and strength to take the next step? Or was it for the people? Or even more importantly, the disciples? Was it important for them to see Jesus as this king? To see the people's hearts towards Jesus, so that when they would next see Jesus dying on a cross, that they would not lose hope. When we look at Paul's letter to the Philippians today, what we see is Paul saying that they should take on the nature of Christ. Jesus had the right and the ability to avoid the cross, to make another choice. I think this is something that we always need to remember. Jesus had a choice to die on the cross. It wasn't that he had no choice. And yet, having the ability to change his choice, even when he took the life of a servant, when he could have got the people together and rebelled against the rulers, he could have led an army, he could have sat in a palace, he could have ate the best food as the leader of the people. But he chose to sit with the humble on the ground, to walk with nothing. In this choice, he chooses not to live, but to die. But he doesn't just choose to die any death. He chooses to die by a both most suffering, painful, long extracted death, and in the end to die the death of basically a criminal on a cross. Why did he do this? Because in the end, for him to take his place, he had to. If Jesus had used his power to keep himself from dying, he would have lost God's respect. He would have lost the position God had made for him. If he was to take his position beside God the Father, he must fulfill the role that God had made for him. In his death, though, it wasn't just for him. It wasn't about him saying, I want to be the right hand of the Father. He knew that we wouldn't get what we were looking for, because if he didn't get his position next to God, God would not give us our position in heaven. So Jesus wasn't just making a choice for himself. He wasn't just making a choice for the Father. He was making a choice for us. A choice for us. That we would get something that we wanted but weren't willing to live to get. You know, I think it's great that these two readings are together. Today we need to remember that this journey through Lent that we've been taking has been to try and live in his suffering, to understand his journey. And I tell you what, whether we chose it or not, at the moment most of us are understanding what it is to suffer in one form or another. And some of us have found our faith in that suffering. And some of us have questioned our faith in that suffering. And that was nothing to what Jesus went through. So if we struggle with this little suffering that we're going through, and our faith is tested in this time, it has to be the greatest blessing that we don't have to. That no matter how bad it gets, the job has been done by Jesus. Next week, we remember his death and what it means to us. And when he rises on that third day, on Sunday morning, we are not just remembering what he did in a historical sense, but what it means in a personal sense. Every day of the next week is a special day. It's called Holy Week because we take special emphasis in the next week of every day leading up to Jesus' death. Hope you can take that journey. Hope that in the journey of the Easter week, the 3 days from Maundy Thursday to Easter Sunday, that you will be blessed to journey with Christ, to take on his journey and to rejoice with him at his resurrection, knowing that his resurrection means life for us now and for eternity.